Damn. Wow. Status report for tomorrow's game versus Los Angeles. Caitlin Clark out, back. Tony, status report, fans out, fatigue.
One injury report just broke the internet, and not in the way the league expected. A single line in a social media post unleashed something the WNBA never anticipated, a full-scale fan revolt with demands that could reshape the entire league. But this isn't about one game or one missed performance. This is about a player the WNBA built its entire future on and a culture that seems determined to destroy her. The Indiana Fever posted their injury status for a nationally televised CBS broadcast against the Los Angeles Sparks. Caitlin Clark listed as out with a back injury. Within minutes, chaos erupted, not disappointment, not frustration, fury, rage, betrayal. Fans flooded the comments with a message so clear, so unified, that it sent shockwaves through a league that thought it had finally cracked the code on sustained growth. The reaction wasn't random. It wasn't emotional overreaction. It was the eruption of something that had been building all season long, a carefully documented, methodically observed pattern of physical abuse that the league refused to acknowledge, much less prevent. And for the first time, fans were saying out loud what they'd been thinking since April. They were done, completely done. This wasn't just about missing one player in one game. This was about the moment when an entire fan base realized the league they'd started supporting didn't actually deserve their loyalty. The question now is whether the WNBA understands what just happened, or if they're about to watch their most successful season in history collapse in real time.
All right, black and white sports supporters. Well, I knew whenever the official Indiana Fever injury status report would get unleashed, it would get ugly for the Indiana Fever and the WNBA. A lot of fans out there, a lot of fans.
Let's rewind to the Connecticut Sun game because this is where everything crystallizes. Caitlin Clark was on the court, and Alyssa Thomas, a veteran forward known for her physical style of play, made a decision that would spark outrage across social media. During a scramble for the ball, Thomas made contact with Clark that wasn't subtle, wasn't accidental, and wasn't called. Video replays showed Thomas's fist connecting with Clark's throat area, not a push, not a normal play. Direct contact to the neck. The referee was right there, other players saw it, the crowd saw it, everyone watching at home saw it, and nothing happened, no whistle, no review, no technical foul. Play continued as if a flagrant violation hadn't just occurred, but that wasn't even the worst part. In the same sequence, while Clark was on the ground, Thomas's knee made contact with Clark's midsection in what fans immediately identified as a strike to her groin area. Again, no call, again, silence. Again, zero consequences. The video circulated on social media, and fans who'd been playing the "maybe I'm overreacting" game suddenly realized they weren't. This wasn't basketball, this was something else entirely. The league's response was to do nothing. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert didn't hold a press conference. The officiating crew wasn't publicly addressed or disciplined. Alyssa Thomas faced no supplementary punishment, no fine, no suspension. She played the very next game without any consequences whatsoever. The message was unmistakable. This is acceptable behavior when the victim is Caitlin Clark. Fans watched other players get ejected for far less aggressive contact. They'd seen technical fouls called for trash talk. They understood the rulebook well enough to know that what Thomas did violated it on multiple levels. But the league's selective enforcement told them everything they needed to know about where Caitlin Clark actually stood in the WNBA hierarchy, and what happened next would only make that clearer.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Until we feel satisfaction with the one player that largely people are tuning in to see, which is Caitlin Clark. So, 2 posts have backfired. Let's start with this one, because the irony was not lost on me. Tomorrow, meaning tomorrow night's game, we are celebrating inspiring women.
The timing was almost too perfect to be accidental. On the same day the injury report dropped, the Fever posted about their upcoming Inspiring Women Night presented by Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, a celebration of female empowerment, a tribute to women's achievement, a showcase of the league's commitment to celebrating and uplifting women in sports. The irony was immediate and brutal. Fans didn't miss it for a second. How can you celebrate inspiring women while allowing your most inspiring player, the player who literally saved this league, to absorb physical abuse without protection? The contrast ignited something in the fan base. This wasn't just negligence anymore. This felt deliberate. This felt like mockery. Comments flooded in faster than the Fever's social media team could delete them. You don't actually care about women. You only celebrate women who fit your profile. Stop pretending to care about female empowerment. The accusation cut deeper than surface-level irony. Fans started asking questions that went to the heart of why this was happening. Why is Clark, who's brought unprecedented attention and revenue to this league, being allowed to absorb this treatment? Why is she being targeted physically in ways that would never be tolerated if they were directed at other players? Why does the league seem almost resentful of her popularity rather than grateful for it? The answer fans arrived at was uncomfortable but compelling. Clark doesn't fit the profile of who the WNBA's established power structure wants representing the league. She's too popular, too white, too straight, too connected to a fan base that exists outside traditional WNBA demographics. Whether that perception is accurate or not almost doesn't matter anymore. It's what a significant portion of the fan base believes, and belief drives behavior. In this case, the behavior is a threatened boycott that goes far beyond one game. And that Inspiring Women Night post became the symbol of everything fans see as wrong with how this league operates.
So I said, Caitlin Clark gonna need Blue Cross Blue Shield by the time all these hateful ass players get done with her. I mean, fans aren't having it. Stop pretending to care about women. You don't. It's obvious you're trying to give Caitlin Clark's career-ending injuries. What a bunch of hateful liberal women.
Here's what fans have been documenting all season long. This isn't about one game with Alyssa Thomas. This is about an accumulated pattern of physical targeting that Clark has absorbed with minimal to no protection from officials. Players across the league have figured out that they can get away with excessive contact when the victim is Clark. Elbows have connected, knees have made contact, hands have grabbed, and the whistle stays silent. Fans have kept receipts, they've clipped videos. They've time-stamped incidents. They've built a visual documentary of a season where one player has been consistently targeted while others have been protected by the same rulebook. The league's officials are making real-time decisions to call flagrant fouls in some situations and swallow their whistles in others. That selective enforcement isn't random. It isn't oversight, it's a choice. And the cumulative effect is that Clark is missing games because her body is breaking down from absorbing contact that should have been penalized weeks ago. The back injury she's nursing right now, fans are connecting dots that the league refuses to acknowledge. After the Alyssa Thomas throat punch, Clark was seen on the bench with her hand on her neck, clearly in pain. She finished that game, but video footage shows her moving differently in subsequent practices. Now she's out with back issues. Did compensating for neck pain cause her to alter her mechanics and strain her back? Did weeks of bracing for the next cheap shot, the next unprotected contact, create muscle tension that finally gave way? We don't have medical records, we don't have the league's analysis, but fans can see the progression as clearly as if the Fever had released a statement detailing it. Clark gets targeted, Clark shows signs of pain, Clark eventually sits out. Meanwhile, the players doing the targeting face absolutely nothing. No fines, no suspensions, no public criticism from league leadership. That asymmetry is what's driving fans past frustration into rage. It's not just that the league won't protect Clark, it's that the league's culture actively celebrates the idea that she doesn't deserve protection.
Damn, donkey. Then watch Stephanie White's shitty, boring offense with dribble, 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 Mitchell leading the team. Call me when Cece gets back. Boycott the Indiana Fever games. Boycott, boycott. I will be celebrating not watching the Fever tomorrow. Wow. WNBA, where everybody gets a shot. This shit writes itself. Are you kidding me?
This is where the theory gets interesting, and while we can't confirm it without direct evidence, the timeline and connections are suspicious enough to understand why fans are asking hard questions. Stephanie White was hired as the Fever's head coach in October 2024. Before that, she was the head coach of the Connecticut Sun from 2023 through 2024. During her time in Connecticut, she worked directly with Alyssa Thomas, the same player involved in the throat punch incident with Clark. She also worked closely with DeJohnette Carrington, another Sun player who has been publicly critical of Clark and her fan base on social media. And White had professional relationships with various ESPN personalities who cover the Sun, some of whom have made comments that Clark's fans consider hostile or dismissive toward her. Now White is coaching Clark in Indiana. Fans are wondering, did she bring those negative opinions with her from Connecticut? Did she share inside information about Clark's game or personality with her former players and media contacts? Is she running her current offense in ways that deliberately minimize Clark's strengths because she's uncomfortable with a player who commands more attention than the head coach? The evidence fans point to is the offensive system itself. Since White took over, Clark's usage rate has dropped. Her assists are down, her ball handling opportunities have decreased. She's spending more possessions standing in the corner waiting for the offense to come to her rather than running pick and roll and initiating plays, which is exactly what made her dominant at Iowa. For a player who thrived by having the ball in her hands and making decisions, this feels less like adaptation and more like intentional diminishment. Is it possible that White is deliberately running schemes that reduce Clark's impact? Fans think so. And when you combine that suspicion with White's previous coaching connections and the lack of any public defense of Clark from her current coach, the theory starts gaining weight. It might not be true, but the absence of visible advocacy from the person who has the most influence over Clark's daily basketball life, that absence speaks volumes. This is the part that really bothers fans, because the mainstream WNBA media has been largely silent about the physical targeting. Beat reporters who will write 10,000 words about a minor controversy somehow can't find time to write about the league's biggest star absorbing flagrant fouls that go uncalled. ESPN, which has broadcast rights and a direct financial interest in the league's success, has been particularly criticized for what fans see as biased coverage that's actively hostile to Clark. Multiple ESPN personalities have made comments that dismiss Clark or her fan base. Segments have aired questioning whether Clark deserves the attention she receives. Commentators have wondered aloud whether her popularity is actually good for the game. There have been discussions about whether fans who came to watch Clark are real WNBA fans or just bandwagoners who don't understand basketball. The network has platformed voices that are openly hostile to Clark while marginalizing voices that defend her. This created a toxic dynamic where Clark brings unprecedented ratings and revenue to the league, but the league's media partners seem almost resentful of her popularity rather than grateful for it. Fans notice the contradiction immediately. They notice that when Clark gets knocked down, broadcasts often cut away quickly or commentators minimize what happened. They notice that highlight packages emphasize her turnovers more than her assists, even when she's had dominant performances. They notice that post-game analysis focuses more on her mistakes than her contributions. The media's role in shaping narrative can't be overstated. When reporters choose not to cover incidents of physical targeting, when commentators downplay violent contact, when networks actively platform hostile voices and marginalize supportive ones, it creates an environment where that targeting can continue without accountability. The league depends on media coverage to enforce its rules through public pressure. When that media coverage is biased or absent, the enforcement mechanism breaks down. And right now, that mechanism is completely broken.
Carlos Garcia, wrong reason. The report should say, Caitlin Clark out, assaulted. And this is the problem with all the nitwits and losers and wimps and the P words that are following and covering the club. Oh my God, the media don't like you, Rhodes. Good. I hope they don't.
Here's what makes this situation so volatile that league executives should be panicking right now. The WNBA just experienced its most successful season in league history. Record-breaking season, unprecedented growth, and almost all of that growth is directly tied to one player, Caitlin Clark. Attendance records at Fever games weren't just good, they were historic. Television ratings for games featuring Clark were triple or quadruple the league average. Games not involving the Fever struggled to find an audience even in this supposedly breakthrough season. Merchandise sales exploded, sponsorship deals multiplied, corporate interest increased, the entire economic foundation of the league improved dramatically. All of that is built on the foundation of Caitlin Clark's popularity. The league made money this year because fans showed up to watch her. Now that player is sitting out nationally televised games because of injuries that fans directly attribute to the league's failure to protect her. What happens if those fans follow through on their boycott threats? What happens if the ratings for the CBS game crater because Clark isn't playing and her fans refuse to watch? What happens if that becomes the pattern going forward, where viewership is entirely dependent on whether Clark is healthy enough to play? The league has created an unsustainable situation where it's economically dependent on a player that its culture seems to actively resent. That's not a viable long-term model. Either the league adjusts its entire culture to embrace and protect its biggest star, or that star's career gets shortened by preventable injuries and all the economic gains disappear. It's that simple. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has been notably absent from this conversation. She hasn't held a press conference addressing the physical targeting of Clark. She hasn't announced any officiating changes or points of emphasis for referees to prioritize player safety. She hasn't met with Fever management to discuss protocols for protecting their franchise player. Her silence is deafening. Fans interpret it as indifference or worse, tacit approval of the current situation. The comparison to how the NBA would handle this situation is absolutely stark. If a player bringing LeBron James levels of attention and revenue to the NBA was being physically targeted without consequence, Adam Silver would hold a press conference within 24 hours. There would be immediate officiating directives sent to every referee crew. Fines would be issued to players and potentially teams. The message from league leadership would be crystal clear. This stops now, and here's exactly what changes to make sure it doesn't happen again. Instead, the WNBA's response has been to let the situation fester, to allow the physical play to continue unabated, to watch as their most valuable asset accumulates injuries, and now to deal with the consequences of a fan base that's ready to completely walk away.
The game, don't attend the game, don't watch it on TV. The Fever front office and the coach do not support Caitlin Clark, the Fever front office and coach do not support Caitlin Clark. Don't support the Fever. Guys. I mean, it's wild.
Erin Kane represents Caitlin Clark, and fans are asking pointed questions about whether that representation has been effective in advocating for her clients' interests. Has Kane met with league officials to demand better protection? Has she filed formal complaints about the officiating patterns? Has she explored legal options if the league continues to allow conduct that could legally be characterized as assault? We don't have visibility into those behind-the-scenes conversations, and maybe Kane has done all of that and more, but the public result is that nothing has changed. Clark continues to absorb physical abuse. The league continues to look the other way, and Kane's client is now missing games because of injuries that could have been prevented. When a player's safety is being compromised at this level, representation matters. A strong agent should be making noise. A strong agent should be threatening action. A strong agent should be making it clear to league leadership that continued inaction will result in consequences. We haven't seen evidence of that happening. That doesn't necessarily mean Kane is incompetent or uninterested. It means that either she's fighting battles we can't see or she's not fighting hard enough. Either way, from the outside looking in, it appears that Clark's representation has failed to protect her in a situation where protection should be the top priority.
Primetime games without the biggest star the WNBA's ever had, because Kathy Engelbert, Stephanie White, Amber Cox, Lynn Dunn, that's LD Chalk talk, won't protect her from literal violence and abuse. Status report for me watching tomorrow's game versus LA. Jay out. Would fall asleep watching Stephanie White ball. The fans have spoken. The fans have spoken. They have spoken loudly.
This brings us to the question that will determine the WNBA's entire future over the next 5 years. Can the league afford to alienate the fan base that Caitlin Clark brought with her? These aren't traditional WNBA fans who will stick around regardless of who's playing or how they're being treated. These are Clark fans first, WNBA fans second. Their loyalty is to her, not to the league. Their emotional investment is in watching her succeed, not in watching WNBA basketball in general. If they perceive that the league is actively harming her rather than protecting her, they have zero reason to continue supporting WNBA basketball. The numbers bear this out in ways that should terrify league executives. Fever games without Clark this season have drawn significantly lower attendance and television ratings than games where she plays. That's not even close. It's a dramatic difference. The league's overall ratings are heavily skewed by Clark's games, meaning that games not involving the Fever often struggle to find an audience even in this supposedly breakthrough season. When Clark plays, the league thrives. When Clark sits out, the league reverts to its historical ratings. If Clark's injuries continue, if she misses more games due to accumulated physical abuse, if her career is shortened because the league failed to protect her, the WNBA will be right back where it started before she entered the league in April 2024. Playing in half-empty arenas, drawing minimal television audiences, struggling to justify continued NBA subsidies, watching corporate interest evaporate. The entire economic model collapses without the player who made it viable in the first place. That's why this injury report matters so much. It's not just about one missed game. It's not about one broadcast or one night of entertainment. It's about whether the league has learned anything from this season's unprecedented success. It's about whether they understand that their golden goose needs protection, not persecution. It's about whether they're capable of making the cultural and operational changes necessary to sustain the growth that Clark has generated.
Players have made it quite clear they ain't gonna miss Kathy Engelbert. They're not. You know, Coach Anderson reached out to me right before I hit record. And he said, is it possible that Stephanie White ran her mouth to DeWanna Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, when she was coaching the Connecticut Sun about Caitlin Clark? And I said, well, she could have done that. She also could have run her mouth to Lisa Salters, who works in the media for a network in which we've seen ESPN have a lot of Caitlin Clark haters. What's really going on here? I'm going to tell you who's also very, very guilty here. Erin Kane, the agent. Caitlin Clark, get a new agent. She's a bum. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out.
Right now, the evidence suggests the league isn't capable of making those changes. The same patterns continue. The same players target Clark without consequence. The same officials swallow their whistles when she's the victim. The same league office remains silent when they should be publicly and loudly addressing player safety standards. And the fans are watching all of this and making their own decisions about whether this league deserves their time, money, and attention. Based on the reaction to this injury report, a growing number of them have decided it doesn't. They're not watching tomorrow night's game against the Sparks. They're not buying tickets to future Fever games. They're not subscribing to League Pass. They're not buying merchandise. They're not engaging with WNBA content on social media. They're done. And unless something changes dramatically and immediately, they're not coming back. The league built its record-breaking season on the foundation of Caitlin Clark's popularity and the loyalty of fans who came to support her. Now they're watching that foundation crack because they couldn't do the one thing that should have been obvious from day one: protect your most valuable asset. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert needs to address this publicly, and she needed to do it weeks ago. Officiating standards need to change, with clear directives to referees about what constitutes excessive contact when Clark is involved. Players need to face real consequences, fines, suspensions, public criticism for targeting her. The Fever's front office needs to make personnel decisions that prioritize supporting their star. Stephanie White's coaching philosophy needs to be evaluated and potentially changed. ESPN and the media need to provide fair coverage instead of platforming hostile voices. Erin Kane needs to be more visible in advocating for her client. Something significant needs to shift. The question isn't whether fans are overreacting. Fans aren't overreacting. They're responding proportionally to what they've observed. The real question is whether the WNBA will react at all before it's too late. Will leadership take action? Or will the league continue down this path until Clark's career is derailed, her fan base abandons the WNBA entirely, and all the progress from this historic season evaporates as if it never happened? Because that's the trajectory right now. One injury report revealed just how precarious the league's position really is. The growth was real. The success was real. But the foundation was fragile, and it's cracking faster than anyone anticipated. The WNBA has maybe a window of a few weeks to prove that it understands what's at stake. If they don't act, if they continue the pattern of silence and indifference, then the boycott will happen. The ratings will crater. The merchandise sales will plummet. The corporate sponsors will start asking questions about declining viewership. And the league will discover too late that you can't build an empire on one player's talent while simultaneously allowing her to be destroyed by a system designed to resent her success.